What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel and not welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, your face level is lacking. And that's you problem. I mentioned last week in the Marcellus Williams video that we will be discussing Jennifer Jeffley's case, and y'all, I tried to get this video up on Tuesday. When I tell you, things just kept coming up. Like the rabbit hole just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I, of course, wanted to take my time with it, and now I feel comfortable and confident that I can paint you an accurate picture. Let's get into it. On the cool morning of October 29th of 1996, the Houston Police Department receives a phone call about a 71-year-old resident of the Green Arbors Apartments, Maria Palomina, who has just been found deceased inside of her home. Now, the apartment maintenance man is the person that is calling in. He is currently present with the apartment manager, and the two of them have been made aware of a potential situation by Miss Palomina's downstairs neighbor, 24-year-old Eva Mondragon. Now, according to Eva, she, along with two teenage boys that had spent the night at her apartment, had just been awakened to a lot of commotion. Eva heard screaming. She opened her door, realized that they were coming from the downstairs unit, and called out to the older lady asking if she was okay. "Yeah, I'm okay. I just fell and hit my head." That is the response she gets. But Eva notices that this voice does not sound like the older lady that lives downstairs that she is familiar with. So she goes down the steps a little bit. She sees that the screen door of this lady's apartment has been torn off, but Eva does not have a phone to call police herself, so she goes to the leasing office, informs the manager and the maintenance team. When they make their way back to the apartment, Daniel Truesdale, which is the maintenance guy, he jumps over the patio, opens up the front door to allow the apartment manager to come in, and Miss Palomina is there lying lifeless on her living room floor. There's a shattered vase laying next to her that appears to have been used to hit her over the head. While Daniel is on the phone with 911, the manager checks for a pulse and there isn't one. While this is happening, 15-year-old Jennifer Jeffley along with Eva Mondragon enter Miss Palomina's apartment, and they make it in about 5 feet. They're able to stand there just long enough to scope out the scene before the apartment manager asks them to step back outside. Like, girl, have some respect. And child, here is where things get sticky. Now, I mentioned that the night before, two teenage boys had spent the night at Eva's apartment. Jennifer spent the night there as well. One of the teen boys is Jennifer's boyfriend, and the other teenage boy is his brother. They were there at Eva's just hanging out, and the following morning, when the boys and Eva are awakened to the screams, Jennifer is not inside of the apartment. It wasn't until Eva went off to get help that Jennifer returns to Eva's apartment. Now, according to Jennifer, once maintenance makes the call to 911 and they're waiting on the police to arrive, Eva pulls her to the side and tells her, "Look, when the police get here, say that we have all been together this entire time." She does not go into detail about why, but she does tell Jennifer that this is serious, like our lives depend on it. We need to all say the same thing, that we were all here the entire time together. And Jennifer just says, okay. Now, as for where she really was, earlier that morning around 8:30, she had gotten a page. Now, mind you, this was the late 90s, girl. People didn't just have cell phones in their pockets, okay? Now, while everybody is still asleep, her pager goes off, and it is a family friend named Craig Peters. And Craig wants her to call him ASAP. And because Eva does not have a working phone, she goes to a different neighbor, Jane Dorsey's apartment within the same complex, to use her phone. When she calls Greg, he doesn't answer, so she sends him a page, and she just sits and talks with Jane for a little bit. It takes about 30 minutes before Craig Peters calls back. The two of them have a brief conversation, mostly regarding some family drama going on. Now, Jennifer and her sister Kim, who is about 18 months older than her, they've really been bumping heads with their mother lately. Y'all know what teen girls give. The girls, they're interested in boys now. They're wanting to hang out. And according to the mother, this was not the problem that she had. The problem that she had was the girls did not want to go to school. They had been skipping school to the point where the mom had been threatened with truancy charges. So she had confronted them and let them know, like, look, y'all can do what y'all want to do on your extracurricular time, but on academic time, y'all need to be at school. So in the 2 days prior to the murder happening. So girls had gotten into it with their mom Jackie, and they had left her apartment to go to Eva's apartment, which was in the same complex, but the mom had no idea where they were. She thought they had just run away. The day prior to the murder though, Jennifer's sister realized she was not about that runaway life, and she had returned home and had gone to school that morning, but Jennifer was still at Eva's. And Craig Peters comes into play because they didn't have a whole lot of friends that were fairly new to Houston. So the mom figured if there was anywhere that they did have to run away to, it is probably the family friend, Craig Peters, but when she calls Craig, he has not seen nor heard from Jennifer. So the mom had asked, if you do hear from them, please let me know. And this was why he had sent the page to Jennifer. And after speaking with Craig a little bit to tell, I guess, her side of the story, Jennifer walks back to Eva's apartment and, of course, sees that there is something going on. And when questioned by police, she regurgitates exactly what Eva had told her to say, which was that they were all together the entire morning. Granted, Eva is her girl and they hang out, and that's her little friend. Eva is 24. So Jennifer sees her as the adult in the situation. She doesn't question anything she's being told. The police also get statements from everyone else there, Eva, the maintenance man, the apartment manager, and then they go on to conduct their investigation. And simultaneously, something else very interesting is going on. While Jennifer is standing outside talking with the police, her aunt is leaving her apartment and sees her. So the aunt calls Jackie and is like, hey, I think something is going on inside of the apartment complex. The police are in the front, and I also saw Jennifer standing outside talking to them. Now, instead of going to where Jennifer and the police were, Jackie, her mom, she goes to the local police station and reports Jennifer as a runaway, asks that a squad car be sent around there to pick her up because she knows exactly where she is. And the desk officer that she's talking to is like, you know where she is? Her mother is like, yeah, she explains. And he tells her, well, if you know where she is, she's not a runaway. Just go get your kid. It's basically a waste of our time and resources if you know exactly where your child is, but you want us to send a car around there to get her instead of you pulling up and getting her. And the mom is like, girl, that don't even sound right. But before she could argue, Jennifer walks into the police station with officers, and they walk right past her, and she tells the desk officer, like, that was my kid right there. Police got to the scene around 9 a.m. to investigate, and this is about 2 in the afternoon. He tells her to wait right there. He's gonna go find out why her daughter has been brought down to the station, and he'll give her an answer, but he is in no rush to do so, taking his sweet little time. The mama said she was sitting there waiting for what felt like forever. She had to go back and check in again with him and say, hey, like you said, you were going to let me know what's going on with my kid, but you haven't. So finally he goes to find out and comes back and tells her that her daughter has been a witness to something and is just answering a few questions. She asks if she can go up there, unaware that she could have made demands considering that her daughter is a minor, but the officer tells her that that is not necessary because they're just about done. They're wrapping up now. So the mama sits, she waits, about 30 minutes goes by. Still, her daughter has not come out. When she asks again, she is again told that everything is fine. Just wait down here. Your daughter will be brought out any minute. And once he is finally brought out to her mom on the ride home, Jackie is asking questions like, girl, what were you doing back there? Like, what's going on? And Jennifer is being very vague, but she basically says that her friend Eva's downstairs neighbor was now dead and she was given a witness statement. And her mom is like, so you saw it? Like, you were a witness to the things? You know what happened to the lady? And Jennifer's like, no, I don't know what happened. I didn't see anything. I just told them what Eva told me to say. And her mom basically tells her, like, you shouldn't have done that, especially in a situation this serious. Just regurgitate information that somebody else gave you. You don't say anything if you don't know anything. Jackie takes Jennifer back to their apartment. Meanwhile, detectives continue to investigate the crime scene. Miss Palomina's apartment had been completely ransacked. She had been stabbed with a knife from her very own kitchen. The one used was missing from the apartment. There are drawers pulled out in the kitchen, and there's like plastic covering them as if someone had used the plastic to keep their fingerprints from being left behind. There are 2 purses out in the open that have been emptied, and there is blood in several locations of the apartment. So whomever had done this had a clear motivation, which was robbery. Obviously, they were in there searching for valuables and money. Now, Eva Mondragon had also been brought down to the station to give her statement at the same time that Jennifer was. But Eva spends a lot more time down to the station. She is still there far beyond the time that Jennifer had left with her mom. But when she makes it back home, Jennifer, the boyfriend, and the brother, they all go back to Eva's apartment to sit with her and visit for a while and just talk about how crazy the day was. But they don't spend the night. Jennifer goes home to her apartment where she belongs. Her grandmother is in town, so she sits up chatting with her well into the night. She is talking to her grandmother about all of the things that have transpired, how crazy the day was, probably telling her that it typically wasn't this wild. And they're basically just waiting to hear what the police's findings are and what happened to the lady. It was a crazy day, but y'all, at this point, they just got to get through their family stuff. And that's all they're concerned with. But the following day, police arrive back at the Green Arbor apartments, and this time they go around to Jennifer's apartment to speak with Jennifer some more. And they don't want to speak with Jennifer at the apartment. They want her to come down to the station. Jennifer's mother is at work, and so the grandmother is like, okay, well, of course that's not a problem, but can I come along with you? Because they're putting Jennifer in the back of a squad car. But Detective Roy Swainson tells her no, she cannot ride along because there is no room for her in the car. So the grandmother is like, fine, can I trail you in my car? They said that's fine. She goes to grab her keys and the officer bolts. Okay, he leaves the apartment with 15-year-old Jennifer in the back of his squad car before grandma can come back outside with her keys. She has no idea at this point where her granddaughter is being taken to, none of the things. Now, mind you, this is back in 96, before the internet became what it is today. People didn't have GPS right at their fingertips and access to all of the information via Google. So grandma don't know which way to go. And mind you, she is visiting from out of town, so she is not even familiar with Houston like that. And Houston is huge, child. It's real huge and ghetto here. But I love it. I ain't gonna hold you. Jennifer's mother does not have a landline at the apartment. She could not afford one. None of them have cell phones. So in addition to not knowing where they had taken Jennifer, they're not even able to contact her mother to let her know what's going on. She didn't even find out that her daughter had been hauled off in a squad car until she returned home from work later on that afternoon. And by that point, they had been interrogating Jennifer in regard to Miss Palomina's murder for hours. Now, let me give you a little bit more backstory on Jennifer and her family. Like I said, they were very new to Houston. Jennifer had grown up in a much smaller town on the east side of Texas. But 2 years prior, in 1994, her oldest brother, who had just gotten admitted into college, had been killed. And as if that is not tragic enough, Jackie, Jennifer's mother, is struggling financially. Months later, in June, she lands a new job and things are starting to look up for her, but she suffers another blow when in July, the next month, her youngest son is diagnosed with cancer. Now, luckily for her, her new job does have insurance. She is able to get her son the treatment that he needs, and this treatment plan is working. They get to the point where it appears that all of his cancer had gone away. Fall comes around, he wants to play sports, but his mother is like, no, I can't have you getting hurt. And rightfully so. I think I would have been the same way. So he is not allowed to join any of the sports teams, but while playing football with the neighborhood children, he gets hit in the stomach really hard. And as if triggered by this injury, his cancer returns, and it is a lot more aggressive. Jackie, having been told that Houston has one of the best cancer centers in the country, she relocates her family here. But unfortunately, after doing literally everything in her power, in December of 1994, her baby boy loses his battle and passes away. So within a year's time, she has lost both of her sons. And now, unfortunately, her girls are not giving her the easiest time. Now, Jennifer said that moving to Houston was kind of a culture shock because Houston was a lot faster paced than the smaller town that they had come from and all of the things that she was used to. Now, Jackie said she thought she moved into a nice neighborhood, but according to Jennifer, which two things can be true at once. Child, the kids were into some things. It is considered to be cool if you're a little rough around the edges. But Jennifer was very much a square with smooth edges. But she wants to look cool, she wants to fit in, and so she plays the part. She said prior to moving to Houston, she had never even seen people smoking weed. She had never been around people who had participated in any of the things. But she pretends that she has, and that she had not chosen the thug life, child, and that the thug life had in fact chosen her. She had gotten herself a little boyfriend. She had started hanging out with Eva, had stopped going to school, just had done a complete 180. So mama gets home, she finds out that her daughter has been hauled down to the station for questioning. She finds out which one calls and is told there's no need to come to the station, that Jennifer is not in any trouble, they're done talking with her just about, and they'll have her home in about 30 minutes. Jackie waits 30 minutes, no daughter. She calls back. This time she speaks with Detective Swainson. He tells her that, oh, Jennifer is just giving us a modified version of her original statement, so we're making some changes to it, but we're just about done. She'll be home soon. We'll be leaving the station pretty much any minute now. Again, Jackie says, okay, hangs up the phone. Now, let me tell you something about Sharon Vaughn. And I'm not shooting at the mama, but I'm just going to tell you a little story about Sharon Vaughn. When I tell you, Sharon Vaughn would have ran her little finger across them yellow pages, found the address. Granted, the mama had the address because she was there the day before. But child, my mama would have been down there. My mama showed up at my job when I was 19. Long story short, my supervisor at the time was a bitch, and he had triggered mother to have an anxiety attack. Now, the girls I worked with, they had learned about Sharon Vaughn from a previous situation. They knew about this lady. And somebody got her on the line, call her phone, girl. Actually, they had me talk to her to try to get me to, calm down and breathe a little bit. And she told me she was coming to get me. Y'all, when they called back there and said she was out front, my supervisor would not even walk me to the door. He had another supervisor walk me to the door because he was a little scared. And rightfully so. When we got outside, if you live in Memphis, Technicolor was where I was working on Holmes Road. At the front door, the entrance is concrete steps that go down and it's the parking lot. Sharon Vaughn had pulled her car up to the first concrete step. It was cold outside. This lady had on some leggings, Old Navy flip-flops, and a coat. And she was sitting on the hood of the car. Had my stepdaddy in the passenger seat. That lady's so unhinged, y'all. It's so many Sharon stories I could tell y'all. But I just remember even when the supervisor that did walk me to the front, he got nervous seeing her. And I'm like, that's my mama. She don't play by me, baby. And you're not going to play with her either, okay? I don't play by her. And like I said, I'm not shooting at the mamas. No shade to her and how she handled things. I'm just thinking about how unhinged my own mother is. But let's get back to this story and get into these statements that Jennifer is giving police. In the first, 15-year-old Jennifer tells detectives that she had spent the night uneventful, woke up to a page, went to call them back, came back to chaos unfolding. She described the crime scene as she had observed it from standing in there looking around for those couple of minutes before being asked to go back outside. And when asked if she had touched anything, she says no, she hadn't. And to that, the detectives tell her that it can't be true because they have her DNA on several items in the crime scene. And she is like, well, I don't understand how that can be true. Like, I didn't touch anything. And they're like, well, you must have because we have your DNA. We're not accusing you of anything. We just need your help to find out what happened to this lady. So they are telling her that they have her DNA on Mrs. Palomina's purse. Specifically, they have been gone through. They are not accepting her answer, which is that she had not touched anything. So she doesn't understand how that could be possible. And this team of detectives continues to press her for an explanation for 4 hours straight, firing off very accusatory questions at this young girl. They are presenting different scenarios where she could have touched something and finally get her to agree that she had innocently moved a piece of the broken plant pot away from Miss Palomina's neck, and that's how her fingerprints has gotten on this piece of broken pottery that they have, and that she had only moved it so she could check the lady's pulse. And as for her fingerprints being on the woman's purse, they get her to agree she had seen someone like kick it or make it fall at the crime scene, and she simply picked it up and put it on the dining table. Now, none of these statements regarding her touching all of these things is stated in Eva Mondragon's statement, Daniel Truesdale's statement, nor is it in the apartment manager's statements. None of them mention her going around picking up things, moving things, or checking for a pulse. These detectives continue to fire off different scenarios, like weaving Jennifer into the fold. And finally, after hours of this, tired because she had been up late with her grandma, hungry and desperate to go home because she has heard Detective Swainson telling her mom that they're almost done, she'll be home any minute. Meanwhile, they're telling her, you're free to go home as soon as you give the right statement. All of this having transpired, Jennifer tailors her fourth oral statement to what they have been suggesting and accusing her of, which was being present at the crime scene and touching stuff. This fourth oral statement that she gives, as she is saying it, it is being typed up by either Detective Swainson or Detective Allen. One of the detectives is typing up what she says, and they're very pleased with this typed version of it. But instead of calling her mother for her to go home or taking the young girl home, Detective Allen has the required juvenile warnings read to Jennifer, which is like the minor equivalent to her Miranda rights. Right after this, Jackie makes another call down to the station and talks to Detective Swainson. He still does not inform her of the true nature of her daughter's visit at the station or what's currently going on. He does not allow her to speak to her daughter. He instead tells her that she is in good hands. That's his quote. And that everything is fine. And again, that her daughter will be home soon. Jennifer is presented with this document that she is told is exactly her words typed up. They tell her that, she just has to sign it. This will be over. She's just heard Detective Swainson say she's about to come home shortly. So she is ready to get this over. She signs it, believing that afterwards she will be taken home. And unfortunately for her, this statement is actually a confession of her not only being present at the time of the murder, but being a part of the plan, which was to rob Miss Palomina, steal her car, and names two other men, one of which had killed the woman. Immediately after signing, she has read her Miranda rights, and at close to 1 a.m., after being at the station with them for 9 hours, Jennifer is finally allowed to speak with her mother on the phone, still not understanding the magnitude of the situation. Her mother is still not made aware either. And after speaking with her mother, Detective Allen gets on the phone and finally informs Jackie that her daughter actually would not be returning home and she had just been charged with capital murder. Blue, please. The very next day after Jennifer's arrest, Eva Mondragon puts in her notice to vacate and break her lease. She very quickly vacates her apartment. She takes basically just, it looks like, the clothes on her back and the shoes on her feet, because a lot of her things had to be cleared out of the apartment. Now let's get into Eva's statement to police. When it asked how she knew Jennifer, Eva told police that she came to know Eva through her mother and that Jennifer and her mother had an addiction to crack cocaine. She had allowed the teen to spend the night at her apartment because she had just been kicked out. And later on that evening, she finds out that Jennifer had invited her boyfriend and his brother to her apartment, which she had complained to Jennifer about because she said she didn't want all of these people hanging out, making a bunch of noise. She had already been warned about all of the noise coming from her unit by the apartment manager, and she didn't want any more issues, but she had allowed the boys to stay. She said that Jennifer and her boyfriend took the bedroom while she and his brother slept in the living room. Also, according to her statement, that morning she had first waken up at 7:44 to a page from a friend named Tommy, and she looked over and noticed that the brother was still asleep in the chair. But because Eva does not have a phone, she couldn't answer the page, so she just closed her eyes and tried to go back to sleep. Minutes later, she was awakened by Jennifer, who had gotten a page and told her that she was going to return the phone call and she would be back. Eva said she assumed that the boyfriend was still in the bedroom asleep, but she didn't see him. She just saw Jennifer go out the front door. She dozes off and then she hears a woman screaming for help. Now she said initially, you know, you hear things in your sleep and you're not sure if it's like reality or not. But then she hears the screams again. And then Jennifer's boyfriend comes running down the hall asking her if she heard that. She then goes out the front door, halfway down the stairs, followed by the two boys. The brother is now also awake. She sees the scream door, rings the alarm. Now in this first statement, she says that the voice that responds to her was, quote, deep and raggedy, that it was a man's voice and it sounded like a black man trying to mimic the voice of an older lady, which made her run for help. Eva's statement then says that while she's running for help, she sees somebody walking like in the direction of her apartment building that could have possibly been Jennifer, but she is unsure because she was distracted. And after she returned from alerting the office, she saw Jennifer standing outside of Miss Palomina's apartment. And at that point, Jennifer told her that she had jumped over the patio, had gone in, the lady looked dead, and there was blood all over the place. And Jennifer says that she checked for a pulse and there was none. At that point, she looked down at Jennifer's hand and noticed a cut. She said she could tell it was a fresh cut, but it wasn't bleeding. And when she asked Jennifer about the cut, Jennifer said that she had accidentally done it while checking on the lady because she moved a piece of a broken vase that was near her. Now, this is all according to the statement Eva gave the night before Jennifer was arrested. The boys had left at the mention of police. As soon as they heard that the police was coming, somebody was killed, they had got out of there. Okay, they skedaddled on that day. But police have wrangled them up too and brought them in for a statement as well. Their statements only can include details of that night before up until the point where Eva had run off for help. Their statements are the exact same as each other's and are very similar to Eva's, except for a few minor details, or not so minor details. The boyfriend said he awakened first. He looks down on the floor and sees his brother waking up as well. The boyfriend said he stepped over his brother and went down the hallway toward the living room. His brother got up, followed him. So now we have Eva saying she was asleep in the living room and one of the brothers was as well. They both woke up at the same time to the screams and then went out. But then we have the two brothers' statements who say that they were asleep in the back room. Somebody lied. And even Jennifer has mentioned their sleeping arrangements, putting the brother in the bedroom on the floor. So why would Eva say the brother was in the living room if he wasn't? One could argue that maybe Jennifer, her boyfriend, and his brother are on the same accord. They're like, hey, let's just put us all in this bedroom. But that would be a weird detail for them to make up because all four of their stories or statements places all of them inside of Eva's apartment at the start of the screaming, subsequently giving each of them an alibi. It wouldn't matter which room he slept in. The only one that would benefit from that lie would be Eva. This is just one of many contradictions between these different statements. Another contradiction is the boyfriend states that he first was awakened by the sound of the door in Eva's apartment closing, followed by the screams. And when they made it down the hallway, she was already awake and up. But per Eva's statement, she heard faint screams. She thought she was dreaming. And it wasn't until the boys came down the hall asking her if she had heard what they heard. And it's another something that just doesn't make sense for them to have lied about, because whether they woke her up or she was already up and moving like they claimed, they're coming from the back room. Their alibi is established. But Eva, however, will benefit from a lie, because them hearing the door close and they come down the hall and she's already up sounds a lot more suspicious than, yes, we woke up together hearing screams. You follow me? One more contradiction that I want to point out is that Eva says she went to get help for a screaming woman, right? But in the statements given by the maintenance man and the office manager, they both quote her as saying that someone needed to come because there is a dead woman inside of the apartment below her. Not that there was a woman screaming, an elderly lady needing help, not Craig's in trouble, come quick. She specifically stated that there was a dead woman. And then her statement says that while the apartment manager and the maintenance man were checking it out, Jennifer had pulled her to the side, trying to tell her what to say, and that Jennifer had asked Eva to say that they were all together and had never separated, not the other way around. It says that she does not know why Jennifer wanted her to lie, and she had overheard Jennifer lying to police putting herself at Eva's apartment, hearing the screams with everybody else, and said that it was her who had actually sent Eva to go get help. But it wasn't true. She had gone on her own, and Jennifer wasn't nowhere to be found at the time. And this particular statement is the one that police are taking as truth. It is why they picked Jennifer up the next day, and it is what they used when they spent 7 hours trying to pry a statement from Jennifer that matches Eva's, at least enough to make her look guilty. And the day after Jennifer's arrest, Eva had met with detectives to give another statement. And this next one, she said that she had been too afraid to sleep at her apartment, and then she had been thinking about everything yesterday nonstop. And the more she thought about it, she recalled some more details, specifically the fact that the voice that she heard responding to her, it wasn't deep like a man's. Upon more reflection, she's realized that the voice sounded like a female's, not a male's. And she now believes that voice to have been Jennifer's. Mind you, this is her third time speaking with police about that morning. First, at the scene, at around 9 a.m., she said, and she was so sure that this was a man's voice, deep and raggedy. The second time was her statement at the station later on that day. Again, a male's voice, deep and raggedy. But now that she's thought about it some more, it was a female's voice, and she believes it was Jennifer's. Going to trial, the prosecutors are relying heavily on Eva's testimony as their star witness. They also rely heavily on this typed up signed confession. Jennifer's mother cannot afford an attorney, so she is appointed a public defender who visits her just one time before her trial date. She had tried reaching out to the lawyer, calling several times. The lawyer would not answer, would not return her calls. She had been told from other inmates, like, if you call your lawyer direct, collect, then they have to answer by law. But even that didn't work. When her mother had attempted to contact her lawyer on her behalf, the lawyer told her that yes, her daughter is a minor, but she's being tried as an adult. So by law, she doesn't have to talk to the mama about the daughter's case. If she was being tried as a juvenile in juvenile court, then yes. Now, about 6 months after Miss Palomina's death and Eva suddenly moving out, the maintenance team goes into the unit. They're painting it, getting it prepared for the next resident. One of the men pulls out the refrigerator to paint back there, and he sees a small black wallet tucked into the coils on the back of the refrigerator. He takes the wallet out, sets it on the counter, continues his job, goes about his day. Now, Daniel Truesdale, who is also, of course, part of the maintenance team, he goes in to inspect. He sees the wallet on the counter, opens it up, and sees that this wallet belonged to Miss Palomina. Daniel takes the wallet to Kendall Cobb, who is a Houston police officer who moonlights as security for the apartment complex, hands it over to him, lets him know, like, this is the wallet of the lady we found dead 6 months ago. Now, Officer Cobb takes possession of it, puts it in a grocery bag, and tosses it in the back seat of his personal vehicle, forgets about it for months. Like, doesn't enter it into evidence. It's just rolling around his backseat of the car. After spending months in his car, he finally takes it to the station, enters it into evidence to be a part of Jennifer's trial. Jennifer is in jail about a year before her trial date begins. She's only spoken to her lawyer once in that time. Eva, being the prosecution star witness, she comes in, gives all of the details of her most recent statement, except for the part where she says the voice sounds like Jennifer's. She doesn't mention that in court. In court, she simply says that it did not sound like her neighbor. When asked about her relationship with her downstairs neighbor, Eva says Miss Palomina was sweet and they spoke often. Everything was always pleasant between them. But in reality, Miss Palomina had been the one complaining about the noise coming from her unit upstairs. She had also been complaining to the office about traffic coming in and out of Eva's apartment at all times of the day and night. She had actually just made her most recent complaint the day before she was murdered. Now, Eva works at 2 strip clubs, so child, her business hours, they vary. Her schedule is ever changing. She also young. Her apartment is the hangout spot. She's lit, okay? And now all of these complaints have her on thin ice with the leasing office. There are also other details said in court differently from her statement. Like, in court, she said Jennifer told her that she had cut her hand on the railing while jumping over the patio. But in her statement, remind you, she said that Jennifer told her she cut it moving a piece of the broken plant pot. Eva also adds that when she was returning from getting help, and she saw Jennifer standing there in front of Miss Palomina's apartment, Jennifer started stuffing something into her pocket. She couldn't see what it was. It was something small enough to fit in there, which I personally feel like is her insinuating that there was that wallet stuck in her pocket. But you make your own assumptions. And she says that Jennifer changed clothes between the time that she had waken up and her return, which was simply not true. That wasn't even mentioned at all in any of the prior statements. It wasn't until she had to give a statement to the grand jury that this tidbit of information, which would be a huge detail to have missed, this is the first time it's brought up. If you haven't gathered by now, Jennifer's lawyer sucks. And when it is time for him to cross-examine the witness, he requests copies of her statements. This man had not read a single statement from the star witness. Once he gets himself caught up to speed, he is very hostile with the witness. When somebody need to be hostile with him, he constantly cuts her off, calls her a liar, which I believe she is. But you can't say that in the court. You can't just yell that this lady is a liar. Okay? Have the prosecution objecting all over the place. Just uncouth in the courtroom. Now, her lawyer does ask her who Tommy is, the person that paged her that morning, and why he would be paging her so early. And she just says that Tommy is some guy she knows from the club that she dances at, and he probably did that just to annoy her. And when asked by Jennifer's lawyer, which was absolutely crazy, on the stand, this man asked her what the voice sounded like that she heard, that response coming from Miss Palomina's apartment. She says that she can't say whether it was a male or female's voice, just that it wasn't the lady's voice. Jennifer's lawyer does not call any of his own witnesses to the stand, not Jane Dorsey to confirm whether or not she had really gone to that apartment that morning, not Craig Peters to question whether or not they were on the phone. The police had not even ever reached out to them to ask about that, like not once. Her lawyer does not press the issue of her being a 15-year-old minor and how they had obtained her confession without the presence of her parents, let alone a lawyer, and how they only accepted the fourth version she had given them after being fed lies like they have her DNA all over the place, explain that, and her DNA being all over the purse, her being questioned for hours by a team of detectives without the understanding that she had the right not to say anything at all without the presence of a lawyer. And one of those detectives is Detective Smith. Now, he is brought into trial to give his testimony, and according to him, he who physically typed the confession, it was her exact words, and he had simply typed them as she spoke. And this is what the statement said. 2 days before the murder, two men that Jennifer knows, Ernest and Tim, had come by Eva's apartment, and Ernest had asked Jennifer about the white Honda parked outside, and she told him it belonged to the lady that lived downstairs. At that point, Ernest decides he wants to steal the Honda from the lady that lives downstairs. So they then come up with a plan. Now, Ernest and Tim are these experienced car thieves, and they said that they could get more money from the car if it wasn't hot wired and if there were no windows broken, so they would need the keys to achieve this. The plan was the following night they will come back, break in, and Jennifer had agreed to be the lookout. They'll enter her apartment, they'll tie her up, steal her keys, but the following night when they're supposed to, the guys do not show up. Tuesday morning came around, she got the page from Craig Peters, brushed her teeth, washed her face, goes to use her phone, and on the way back from Jane Dorsey's apartment, she had run into Ernest and Tim. Now, Ernest and Tim don't live in the neighborhood, they just so happen to be walking around the complex this morning, and they're ready to carry out their plan right now in broad daylight. They ask her if Miss Palomina is at home. Jennifer says yes, and that she knows the lady's at home because she had just said good morning to her on her way out. They tell Jennifer to go knock on the lady's door as they wait out of view on the steps. She knocks. The lady says, "Who is it?" She says, "Your neighbor from upstairs." Miss Palomina asks, "What do you want?" And while Jennifer is trying to think of something to say in response, another two men that she is familiar with, one named Red Rock, I forget the other one's, Housen is the other's name. Red Rock and Housen come from around the corner and asks her about the Mexican upstairs, which is Eva. She tells them that Eva was asleep and that they needed to go on, skedaddle, scram. And so Red Rock and Housen walk off. Instead of knocking again, she just tells Ernest and Tim, like, hey, she's in there. We need to just get it done. Ernest jumps over the patio. Tim jumps over the patio. Then he helps Jennifer over the patio, rips the screen door down. Miss Palomino approaches the glass door, asking what they're doing, what's going on. Ernest slides the door open. Miss Palomino starts screaming. They all go in. First Ernest, then Tim, then Jennifer. She tells them to hurry up and get the keys so they can go. Miss Palomino is still screaming, so Ernest tells her to shut up. And she says okay, but moments later she starts screaming again. So he had taken a white object and hit her over the head with it, and it shattered. And per this type confession, Jennifer watched as the lady fell to the floor. Then Tim had instructed her to go find the keys, grab her purse, look through that. So that is why she picked up one purse, looked through it, told him they're not in it. She then goes to the bedroom and sees another purse. She ruffles through it, finds the keys, gives them to Ernest. The lady screams again. So Tim hits her over the head again, this time with a flower pot. She stops screaming and is presumed to have been dead at that point. Jennifer yells at them that it wasn't supposed to go down like this. She checks the woman for a pulse. She does not feel one. Then Jennifer and Tim watch as Ernest stabs the woman's lifeless body several times with the knife. At this point, they hear Eva outside asking her if she is okay. Ernest does his best impersonation of an elderly lady's voice, responding. Jennifer tells the men that it's time to go, and they all flee the same way they came, jumping over the patio. When they leave, they flee. They don't even take the car. They have her keys, but they tell Jennifer they'll just come back later and get the car. The block is hot. And these men manage to flee unseen by anyone. They're never located. They're never identified, given last names, no physical descriptions, no nothing. Like, your guess about who Ernest and Tim are is as good as my guess. Jennifer says she doesn't know Ernest nor Tim. She doesn't know where these names came from, who these men are supposed to be. So it is widely believed, I believe, that Detective What's-His-Face, Allen and Swainson, they made up this whole scenario, this whole tale, based on the bits and pieces of what they knew from the crime scene, mixed with a little bit of what Eva said, and decided this will do. No one else that had been interviewed had seen these men, had ever heard of these men. Not even the two men, Red Rock and Housen, that had approached Jennifer. So I believe she told them about this. And that little part was true. These men were from around the complex. People knew who they were. They had seen Jennifer that morning leaving Eva's apartment and had stopped her to ask about Eva, but they didn't see any men. No Ernest, no Tim sitting on the stairs. And the way their apartment is set up, they had to have seen the man sitting on the stairs if they were really there. Another major red flag and huge contradiction is the fact that in the confession, it says that Miss Palomino was hit over the head with a flower pot. Initially, the crime scene looked as though that might have been the case because she was laying on the floor. She did have some blunt force trauma, and there was a broken flower pot and vase next to her. At the time of this type confession, Detective Allen does not have access to the autopsy. He only has access to the crime scene photos. But during trial, it is revealed by the medical examiner as well as the forensics team that the vase and the flower pot had only fallen and been shattered. They were not used to hit this woman. It was actually the metal stand that they sat on that was used to hit her. And that metal stand had left an indenture that matched its form perfectly. But nowhere in this confession does it mention that the stand was used. It specifically states that the flower pot was used. Now, in regards to the manner in which they had obtained this confession from this 15-year-old, the detectives justify it by saying that at the time they were just asking her questions. She was not a person of interest. They were simply having a conversation with her. She was not handcuffed and was free to leave at any moment. When asked if they had ever told her that, Detective Allen said no, they didn't tell her that she was free to leave at any moment. They just assumed that she knew that. None of her conversation, interrogation, whatever you want to call it, whatever semantics you want to play, none of it was recorded. There is no audio, there is no video. And as far as evidence, Miss Palomino's wallet is dusted for fingerprints matching Jennifer's, but there are none that matches hers. And the prosecution tries to say that, The wallet was mishandled. It rolled around in a Walmart bag in the back of this man's car for months. Like, that could have rubbed off. But according to the Houston Crime Lab, Jennifer's DNA does not match any of the DNA they recovered from the scene. Not from a flower pot piece, not from the victim herself, not from her purses. So all of that was just a complete lie that the detectives told Jennifer to get to say that she had touched these things. And despite all of the inconsistencies and the DNA results excluding Jennifer from the crime scene, based off of the very suspicious typed up confession and Eva Mondragon's testimony, the jury finds 15-year-old Jennifer Jeffley guilty of capital murder, leaving her to face the death penalty. At her sentencing, she was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of paroling after 40 years. And she has been behind bars since that day she was picked up at 15 just to answer a few questions and help them with the investigation. She went to file an appeal, and they assigned her the exact same lawyer. They handled her case, the same public defender. All of her initial appeals are denied. It does take a few years, but Jackie, Jennifer's mother, finally is able to afford an attorney for her daughter, who's been a lot more active and involved and really felt confident in his ability to have her conviction overturned, just given the facts. But despite his efforts, Jennifer's subsequent appeals have also been denied. A public outcry has led to a creation of a petition to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, which was started by Jennifer's family and has received over 1 million signatures in support of her by people who believe she is innocent and should be freed. But unfortunately, nothing has been done yet. She is still in prison, and if she is not successful in having her conviction overturned, and she is also granted parole after 40 years, she'll be 55 when she is released. Y'all, this is crazy. In closing, I'm gonna say, I believe Eva Mondragon. I think Tommy, whoever that was that paged her that morning, whether it was a boyfriend or somebody from the club, hell, he can be both. I think that she was upset about the complaints, and she, with Tommy or whoever else, had came up with a plan to get rid of this lady who kept complaining. It happened that morning. The boyfriend, hearing that door close, was Eva coming back up while her friend, boyfriend, whomever, was still downstairs in Miss Palomina's apartment. The boys heard the screaming. They got to her, and then she just fell in line playing the role like, oh, what's going on? Oh my goodness. Because it's just too much. Too much inconsistencies after that. Like, how you take off on foot when this lady's screaming, but by the time you get to the office, there's a dead woman in the apartment. That's because y'all had plans to kill the lady. And Eva or her friend took that wallet behind the refrigerator and forgot about it. That's how you knew. It's just a terrible, unfortunate case that this young girl has been in jail all of this time. Mind you, Jennifer says she has not heard from Eva Mondragon since she got picked up. Like, she never heard from her again. Initially, before I really got deep into it, I thought maybe this was like a group effort, that Jennifer was maybe in on it with Eva. But why would Eva tell some kids, 15-year-old kids, about a plan like this? Like, I don't foresee somebody trusting children with being in on this. And the timeline is just not consistent with Jennifer being involved in any of the things, because she got up, she got her page, she went to talk on the phone and came back, and all of this was going on. It's just sad. I hate that it has happened. Those are just my thoughts. It is so sad. And the tactics used by the detectives, you know what I don't like? I feel like the whole time I kept thinking, like, these are grown men. One of y'all gotta have a daughter. For a group of grown men to sit interrogating and pressuring a 15-year-old girl, like, at no point did you not realize or think like, dang, this could be my daughter. Like, I wouldn't want nobody doing this to my child. It's just crazy that they just didn't look at this 15-year-old child and see a 15-year-old child. Like, this is a kid. For them to have not been reprimanded at all for the role that they played in getting this confession is just crazy to me. But child, like I said, discuss it, not surprised. Please let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Share the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. Subscribe button, because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, your taste level is lacking and you don't have a sense of humor, which is crazy to say because I'm here to talk to you about, wow, true crime. 23, yeah. The manager checks for a pulse, and there is not. Okay, get it together, girl. And they're able to stand there for a couple of minutes before, okay. Jennifer's sister. You okay, Bella? Girl, please don't die right now. Please. I just don't have the time. After talk, okay, after talk, and after, Eva is 24. And at this point, Jennifer is just thinking that, like, this is, okay. And that the thug, just had done a complete 180. That's right? Because 360 would be like a full circle. Mama fine. Okay. She had already been okay, come on, Brittney. Come on. Now, Eva's statement then goes, okay. This one, like, is getting on my nerves. Interest, right? If she was asleep by herself in the living room and there was no one there to... my gosh, please. Miss Palomino, Miss Palomino,